was the kid who, I like to put my work on the refrigerator. I like to have something to show for it, right? Something tangible. You work years and years, and on some projects, even decades. And then, hopefully at the end of the day, you have something built and you get to experience that. And that's incredibly satisfying rather than just sort of crunching numbers or, that kind of thing. It's like you have something really physical. You've made an impact on a community, on a neighborhood, on the lives of people who get to use that building, and that's really fantastic. I remember telling my dad when I was little that I did not want to work in a cubicle. Like, I didn't want to have a desk job that felt like I was just on a treadmill, So I knew that I wanted to make stuff. And so art was definitely something in the back of my mind. I wasn't sure how to make a career out of that. I liked history, I liked music, I like art, I liked sciences, particularly like physics, that kind of thing, social sciences, psychology, like culture, literature. And I was like, even different kinds of sports. Like I was never really focused on one thing. I had a really broad range of interests and I just liked trying different things. And I had an older brother who was studying art. And like I said, I had this sort of realization that I wasn't good at just creating something from nothing. I had skills in art, like I could draw really well, but I didn't know what that was going to do for me, like professionally, right? And also art seemed very sort of a solo kind of an activity often, and I really liked team-based activities. I was in orchestra. That was something I really liked doing, and I liked playing as a music together as a group rather than just playing an instrument by myself. And I was in Girl Scouts, which was another thing that I felt like was really instrumental in exposing me to lots of different kinds of things. But, architecture is this place where you kind of connect all these dots. And I started doing some general research on, what was required to apply to colleges and the more I looked into what was required for architecture, I was like, okay, well, this feels like it's a good fit for me. But I didn't know until I started kind of going down that path and doing the research. My first studio classes, I was totally hooked. I was like, this is definitely, the right spot for me. There was this point in time in which I was in orchestra. I played the cello. And I wasn't a great cello player. I didn't practice that much. I had a really inexpensive cello. It didn't sound very great, but I just loved playing music with other people. And I had to audition to get into the next level between the freshman and the like upper level orchestra. And when I went to audition, the conductor said, "Well, if you don't make it, are you going to stay in the freshman orchestra?" And I said, "No, actually, I think I'm interested in architecture. There's this drafting class that the schedule's at the same time as orchestra. So I'm gonna try to do this drafting class if I don't make it into the orchestra." And I didn't make it in. But the first chair cellist advocated for me and got the guy to change his mind. And at the end of the day, I'm really grateful I did not take that drafting class because I think that's kind of the misconception is like, you got to be good at math, you got to know how to draft, you got to know how to use this particular bit of software. And I'm really grateful that I didn't take this CAD class because I got to play music. I took art classes. I did all kinds of other things that were not sort of a traditional understanding of what an architect does. And I think all of those are more enriching. I studied architecture undergrad. I worked in architecture for 3 years. I went to grad school for architecture. And one thing I've come to realize is that there's a lot of other people who studied other things. They had other jobs. They worked on a lobster boat. They studied political science. They were in drama. They did everything else but anything that looked like architecture. And you can still go and get your master's degree in architecture and still become an architect. And I didn't explore as much as I would have liked in hindsight. I saw all the other students when I went into my master's degree, they did a 3-year master's instead of a 2-year master's. And at the end of the program, you would have had no idea that I spent 7 years studying and working in architecture, and the people next to me had never had a job in architecture and they've only been in school for a couple of years. if I had to choose things differently, I would have, and maybe it's on my own interest, I would have explored more. I would have tried doing different things. And I think that's really great because it's never too late to go into architecture. I had people in my graduate class that were well into their 40s that were second career, and they just decided that they wanted to do something different, and it was something they were always interested in. Keeping an open mind and approaching it with really honing the things that you're passionate about, I think are going to be more important than those kind of more technical skills.